I have now the privilege to announce that we have our guest here ready to talk to us. In the phone, he's actually calling from the other side of the world, Lindsay.
Whoa.
He is calling us from Florida.
Oh my.
So he's calling us from the past. We are in the future, and I want everybody to welcome Mr. Ulrich. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to talk to you about one of my favorite topics of all time, parenting. Good morning to you, or actually, should I say good afternoon?
Good afternoon. Yeah, good morning, guys. It's so good to be here, and I'm glad it's one of your favorite topics too, Scotty. That's one of mine as well.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a lot to talk about here.
Yes.
So, Matt,
yes.
let's just start with your parenting journey. So tell us a little bit about your family first.
Sure. I've got 4 girls, so I'm a total girl dad. Grew up with all brothers, so that was totally new. So I didn't grow up following Jesus. I was the first in my family to start following Jesus when I was 17. And so new ideas of implementing faith into my family, and also all girls. I grew up with all brothers, so this was totally new to me. But I have a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and we have adopted a 2-year-old as well.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
All ages of the spectrum, yes.
So you are quite considerably outnumbered in your home by the sounds of it.
Yes, completely outnumbered.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Look, it must have been great, because there's just something about, the love that the little girls can give. So I have a girl and a boy. And I can tell, they interact with you and they love you in different ways. And both of them are special, but it's so nice when you have that little cuddly girl and it just gives you that hug and says, I love you, Daddy. There's just nothing in the world that compares.
There is nothing like that. You're absolutely correct.
So, Matt, tell me a little bit so you wrote a book about parenting. What led you to write a book about parenting? Tell us a little bit about what compelled you and why write that book and not just kind of keep it to yourself for the time being, and tell us a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah, of course. So I've been a pastor for about 20 years. So I've got about 20 years of pastoral ministry. I actually wrote my dissertation, my doctoral dissertation on discipleship. So it's near and dear to my heart. This is what I've really committed the last 2 decades of my life to. And then obviously having children myself, all kind of converged this last, I've wrote the book, it took me about 2 years, but because I just hear Christian parents have this fear that I don't know if my kid's going to be one of the statistics where they lose their faith after their teenage years. Because in America, the stats are after youth group, you have almost a 50% chance of your kid walking away from the faith. And so these parents kept having this concern that I kept hearing over and over, because a lot of these kids, they know the Bible stories. They go to church. They know how to behave. Yeah. And they've been around Christianity, but they're not necessarily being led into a relationship with Christ. And somewhere along the way, they quietly drift, not because they hate God, not because they're rebellious, but because the faith they were handed felt like pressure or rules or performance. They knew about Jesus, but they didn't know Jesus. And so as a dad of 4 girls, then now this becomes a deeply personal question to me. I didn't want to just cross my fingers and hope that their faith stuck after their teenage years. I wanted something deeper than that. And it really sent me back to the scriptures, which is where parenting advice, the best parenting advice comes from, where Jesus just says, I am the way, I'm the truth and the life. And honestly, I just took him at his word. And so the book is not a formula. It's not a checklist. It's not another set of things for parents to do. It's really about the relational framework of Jesus's words, the way, the truth, and the life. Because kids learn the way of Jesus, honestly, more than anything, by watching us, their parents, live it out. And they know the truth by hearing it speaking over them, and they learn the life of Jesus by experiencing his presence in the home. And so I wrote this book because parents don't need more pressure. They need a scriptural, biblical path that's relationally based and not perfection based. And so that's what this book is about, trying to help parents get that relational connection.
I really love your approach, because I think that you would be talking to a lot of parents. I'm a pastor as well. And in my pastoral ministry, I have seen that one of the greatest griefs that parents have is when the parents are in the Lord, they have a relationship with Jesus, but they look at their children and they're often great kids, great people, contributing to society and doing amazing things, but they don't have a relationship with God. And parents carry a lot of guilt for that. They say, no, it was my fault. What did I do wrong? And the reality is we are not prepared, because oftentimes our parents didn't know it, so we didn't really get it from home. And how much pulpit time really can even a pastor dedicate to talk about parenting? If you're lucky, maybe 1 or 2 sermons a year that talk about that. It can be really. So I don't blame people. I think that parents. I think that the reason why so many children ended up walking away from the church or walking away from the Lord, it's because we thought that parenting would be an automatic thing that would just happen spontaneously without intentionality. And of course, that didn't work through. So we need books like yours to talk and to bridge the gap between discipleship and Jesus. So my question is, in what areas do you think that parents tend to overlook when it comes to parenting discipleship? So what areas we should be more intentional about, but we ended up overlooking, thinking that it's perhaps unnecessary?
Yeah. So I think every parent has in their mind this picturesque time of sitting down on the couch where everybody's calm and relaxed, totally engaged as mom and dad read the Bible and the kids are asking questions. We're praying together in a controlled environment. And this is what most parents think is discipleship. I don't know about you, Scotty, but that almost never happens in my home. I've got kids running around and doing all kinds of stuff. And I think we miss it because everyday discipleship looks far less like formal Bible studies and far more like intentional conversations and intentional moments. You know, it's like praying in the car when one of your kids is anxious. It's about talking about Jesus after conflict, about how he meets us when we're mad, sad, or frustrated. It can be something as easy as like naming God's goodness when something's going well. I mean, for example, one of the just discipleship everyday moments we have as in my family is at dinner, we go around and we just say, hey, everybody share 2 things we're thankful for Jesus about that happened today. And
nice.
my 5-year-old does this, my 9-year-old, my 13, my wife and I, my 2-year-old, when she can start talking full sentences, she'll be doing this too. But we're teaching our kids how to enter his gates with thanksgiving. Nobody's bowing their heads. No one's using King James language. It's everyday discipleship practice that all my kids are doing. And what we're doing is we're training them with gratitude, what that looks like in the everyday, so they don't have to think that only happens in the church building, but this is just a part of our everyday life. And I think a lot of times we're waiting for these highlight reel moments in our home when Jesus really meets us in the everyday moments more than anything else. And so I think for us, you don't need a seminary degree. You don't need a perfectly structured family devotional. What we need is presence and intentionality and a willingness to talk about God in normal moments. Because discipleship, it happens around dinner tables. It happens on the way to school. It happens before bed. It happens after hard days. This is where ordinary moments can become sacred moments if we're really intentional about bringing Jesus into everything that we're doing.
Now, this is amazing, and I had a little experience with that, with particularly with my son. He's a 5-year-old, and I think at one point in time he lost something, and they said, "Let's pray, let's ask Jesus to help us find." And we prayed, and we found that thing. And now every time that I lose something, I'm walking around the house looking like a mad cockroach trying to find something. My son, he's the first comes to me and say, "Hey, Dad, well, let's pray." And so he's reminding me now that I have to pray when I lose something, saying, you know what, that I love it. I thank him for helping me to remind myself of that. I want to explore with you a little bit of these daily rituals and these times that you go as a family. And as you mentioned, it doesn't need to be like a church service, like a private church service. It can be something as simple as, hey, before we all eat, we naming a couple of things that we're grateful for. What other times of the day do you find an opportunity to talk to your children about the gospel or about something that a practical thing of Jesus?
Sure. Like we have some built-in rhythms. Dinner is a built-in rhythm before bed. That's a pretty natural one where we'll go through, we'll read some scriptures, we'll go through some affirmations straight from the Bible. But honestly, I think and this is where I think we kind of get tripped up, is that we're waiting for these perfect intentional moments where a lot of times it's me just stopping, whether it's in the car, whether it's when I'm sitting down eating breakfast or playing in the yard. I'll just stop and sometimes because they're girls, because we can do this with girls. It's hard to do with boys. I just cup their face and I look them in the eyes and I'll just speak a scriptural truth over them. I'll say, baby, there is nothing you can ever do to make me or God love you any more or less. Do you believe that?
That's beautiful.
Or I'll just say, you know what, baby, did you know that Jesus said he will always be with you? He's never going to leave you or forsake you. It's even those little moments to where now when I say, do you know that there's nothing and my girls go, I know, Dad, that I can do to make you or God love me any more or less. I'm like, yes, that's what I want you eye rolling, because it's so, I call it the deep freezer. It's so deep in their mind and their heart that they just believe it, because God knows there are so many other things that are speaking other little t not true truths over them. I'm like, I want my voice to be the voice they hear, and that voice lining up with the Father's voice. So honestly, it's those little moments just of dropping a quick prayer or a gospel truth where you're just speaking life over the kids, and really just intentionally pointing that back to Jesus. I think those are those moments that we miss the most often that are the most important.
That's amazing. And I love how you said, I want my kids to also be rolling their eyes over that, because that means that this is so ingrained. This is becoming part of they are. And, look, and the reality is we often need more time of reminding than learning new things in the Christian walk.
Hey, can I ask,
Absolutely.
Can you explain the way, truth, and life framework for us, please?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the best things I've really kind of shifted my mind in parenting, because kids learn how to do things by watching other people do them. Whether we mean to or not, as parents, we're making disciples, whether they're followers of Jesus or followers of just other ways that we do it. They're following in our footsteps, because discipleship, it's caught as much as it is taught. And so they watch how we handle stress. They watch how we talk to people. They watch how we apologize, how we forgive. So the way is modeled by us and followed by our children. So this is where it doesn't have to be extra things that you're doing. It's just, as parents, walking with gospel intentionality in our everyday lives. That's the way piece. The truth is just hearing gospel truth spoken over them, and they're going to hear our voice is the soundtrack of their childhood.
Wow.
Let's use it for gospel proclamation. So they can learn from us and again, sometimes I'll literally put reminders in my phone or little things to just say, hey, speak truth over Alethea today. That's my oldest daughter. Until I got in the habit of doing that. So I'm speaking the truth over them. And again, it's not everybody sit down, let's get everybody settled. It's just in the chaos of every day. Yes. Boom, boom, boom. And if I can do that a couple times a day, then the truth is being spoken,
Matt, how can we learn more about it? So how can we find your book? I actually got a copy here. I was very I was reading through it. It's like, there's so much gold here. So thank you for writing it down.
Oh, thanks.
But how can our listeners find that book? Perhaps if they want to give it as a gift to someone, or to learn how to improve their parenting skills, or how can they find it?
Sure. Yeah, so the book's called Raising Kids Who Love Jesus. It's by Matt Ulrich, and they can find it on Amazon. So that's probably the easiest way to find it. So if you just type in Raising Kids Who Love Jesus in Amazon, it'll pop up. And that's probably the fastest and easiest way to get a hold of that copy.
So what formats is it available on? Well, it's just a physical book, or there's also digital copies, audio?
There's there's paperback, hardcover, and a digital copy as well.
Okay, fantastic. Matt, look, this is really fascinating. I would have to invite you to come and talk to us another day, because I think that we're just scratching the surface here. We could have gone so much deeper. And I also want to let you know, listener, if you couldn't catch up all of the details here of Matt's book, Raising Kids That Love Jesus, you can send me a message here to 0491 064 669 with #parenting, and we will send all that information to you. Matt, thank you so much much. We cannot wait to continue that conversation with you another time. Thank you for giving us a framework of how to really help our children to grow up loving Jesus. I think that this is the desire, the ultimate desire of every single Christian parent. Thanks for this ministry.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.